So how do you make $10,000 a month? This is probably the #1 question I get from our clients. If it's not $20,000 or $30,000 a month, the most common benchmark people want is $10,000 a month. Because how would it feel if you had an extra $10,000 a month coming in that could pay for your own bills, where you didn't have to worry and stress about how to keep making your payments, be able to keep taking care of your family? How would it be that you could choose to take that trip whenever you want? How would it be to be able to just live the life that you want because you've got more than enough money coming in to take care of your needs and your wants as well? Well guys, that's what I'm going to cover in this video today, is how can you get to $10,000 a month as quickly and easily as possible. All right, so first and foremost, it really depends on where you're investing your money. It always comes down to that, right? It's not about how much you compound your interest, as you've always been taught, right? You've been taught your whole life, just like I used to teach as a financial advisor. I would teach you that if you were just patient enough, keep putting that money away every month, just keep saving and saving away like a good little slave should do, and you do that forever, hopefully someday by the time you're 80,000 years old, you'll have enough to finally have some freedom. Of course, you won't be able to walk anymore, you won't even have bones because it would, you become like all dust and stuff, but hey, you got money finally, right? You got that dough. No, that's not it. In my opinion, this is not the American dream. The American dream is, how do I create this easily and effectively, right? How do I ensure that I can have that freedom? Because the truth is, I don't know how long I'm going to live. Hopefully I live beyond the time of this video. We'll see. But my ideal is I want to live as much of my life as I can. But if you keep saving and sacrificing and suffering for someday, hopefully you're going to have something later on, what happens if that doesn't work out? What happens if the stock market doesn't quite do as much as the financial advisor has been pitching you and trying to convince you it does, even though it really hasn't? How's that going to work for you? How many more years do you have to work? How many more years of your life are you going to waste away doing that? Well, I'll tell you this. If you want $10,000 a month, that's $120,000 a year. Based on the traditional financial advisor model, not the 4% rule. That rule was debunked way long ago. By the way, did you know the 4% rule came from a guy that, one, it wasn't a rule, two, he was calculated between 1924 and 1974. That rule was 50 years old, guys. Since then, we got off the gold standard, and inflation's way worse than it was back then. So I'll just tell you this, is that 4% rule is dead. It sucks. It doesn't work. 3% is probably a more liberal rule I would go by. 2% if you're trying to retire young. So if you want to live on that $120,000 a year, $10,000 a month, you got to save up, in today's dollars, $4 million. Right now, you got to have $4 million in your retirement accounts or savings accounts to accomplish that, living on 3%. Now, I know most of you don't have $4 million. By the way, did you know that Fidelity did some stats on that? They have 45 million clients. Guess how many had at least $1 million? 810,000. That's like 1.5%. And of those, also polled by a different company, found out that 35% of them didn't even think they'd ever be able to retire. They thought it would take a miracle to be able to retire. Think about that. That's depressing. Even if you're one of the lucky 1.5% to actually have $1 million saved up, then to find out, oh, well, if you really want $10,000 a month, you got to have 4 times that, right? Think of what fraction of a percentile that is for people. Very, very few people ever hit that, but that's the lifestyle that you're always sold, right? It just doesn't happen when you're in the stock market. So what's the alternative? The alternative is, instead of focusing on trying to set it and forget it, instead of trying to put your money away, lock away in prison with that financial advisor who gets paid whether you make money or not, even if the market goes down, they still make money, which is BS in my opinion. If you got that, instead of doing that, what if you got your money working harder for you? What if it was focused more on income generation versus just accumulation? And the income generation side, the side that we talk about here, that passive income, that's where you can invest in real cash flowing investments. I say real because I don't like when people start talking about these random weird things. Like I remember I had clients talking to me about Bitcoin, savings accounts and things like that, paying them 9%. I was like, that's gonna fail, guaranteed. And guess what? One of my clients lost $250,000 gambling in a freaking Bitcoin savings account because it's not real. There's nothing tangible there. I like real cash flowing investments. That's why I go for real estate. Real estate is something that's tangible. It has actual real tangible value that goes to it. Where some of these other investments, even stocks, it's questionable, right? It can go up or down just depending on how people feel. Heck, Joe Biden can fall off an airplane or make some stupid old man statement and all of a sudden the market drops 2%. Who's to say that it couldn't happen to you too? So I like to be in places where I have more control, that is not affected by every little whim in the market, right? That's why I go for real estate. Okay, so what does that really mean? How do you make money in real estate? Well, this is the one thing I learned as a financial advisor, or actually after I quit being a financial advisor. I was a financial advisor until I realized it wasn't helping anybody, including my own father. I realized that he couldn't even retire off that stuff. In fact, he had to work into his 70s before he was finally able to retire But unfortunately, it was almost into forced retirement due to health reasons versus due to lifestyle choices, right? And that's where most people are ending up right now. And so when I started to go outside of that, so I took the little matrix red pill, right? And all of a sudden I'm like going into this new world of this real estate investing. I realized, wait, if I had $100,000 in the traditional financial world, I can only live on $3,000 a year. And then I have to pay taxes on that $3,000 a year, unless it's like a Roth IRA. But if I did real estate, the interesting thing is, what if I got paid 1% a month? That 12% a year. Well, now that 100,000 is paying me 1,000 a month, not 3,000 a year, but 1,000 a month. That's 12,000 a year I'm making off that $100,000. And there's something that kind of clicked in my brain, my little financial advisor brain. It wasn't as brilliant, but something clicked there. I said, wait a minute, I don't need as much money anymore. I don't have to have $2 million plus to live on, 60,000 or 5,000 a month, 60,000 a year or 5,000 a month. I could actually do it with less. If I want 5,000 a month, if I have a 1% a month return, I only need $500,000, not $2 million. That's a quarter of the money I need. And I got really excited. I actually got excited before I made a dime, because the possibility, what was now a possible that I didn't have before, was just mind-blowing, right? I couldn't believe what was actually possible. And so that's where it got me to do that. And so people will say, well, how'd you retire when you're 28, Chris? Easy. I just got my money to work harder for me, instead of me always working so hard for that money. I got my money working in places that are more passive. Like, for example, I could lend money to other investors. I didn't have to be the one investing. I could lend my money to them and charge them an interest rate. It could be 10, 11, 12% a year, sometimes more, just depending on the deal and depending on what they wanted. I could charge them money by lending my money to them like I'm the bank. They have to pay me back. And if they don't pay me back, guess what? I would also do a little thing, which, by the way, this is kind of a key bonus tip for you. If you're investing in something like that, make sure you have some asset that you have claim to, just like a bank does. If you don't pay your mortgage payment, what does the bank do? They foreclose, right? They take your property away. And then they can turn around and sell it. And by the way, the more equity you have, the more you try to pay it off, the more they want to foreclose on it. That's why I don't like paying off my mortgage sooner, because then they don't want to take it from me. They'd rather have me keep it and pay them back somehow. But same thing, if that person doesn't pay me back, I now have a property I can turn around and sell. Do I want to do that? No, but at least I have something to protect my money and maybe even make more money than I would have made off them in the first place. So that's one thing you got to remember. So if you want $10,000 a month and you got paid, say 10% a year, that's $120,000, you need about $1.2 million. If you got paid 1% a month, like that 12% a year, you need $1 million to be able to create $10,000 a month. That's the easy, short answer, right? If you want to be able to do that quickly, that's the easy way to do it. Now, I also like to have real assets of cash flow monthly, right? I want something that comes and pays me on a regular basis. This is why buying real estate can be a great thing, especially if it's rental real estate. Now, there's pros and cons to that. I mean, it's much easier and more passive to lend my money to somebody and let them do all the work. Now, when I buy a rental real estate, I might buy a turnkey real estate property where I'm not the one property managing. I get a property manager for me. They help me find the property, they help me buy the property, and then they turn around, they help me manage the property so that I don't have to find tenants, I don't have to deal with tenants, the toilets, and the trash. I get to deal with the property manager, make sure that they're doing what their job is, and that's it. Can things go wrong? Yes. Can a property manager not always do what's in my best interest or get lazy? Yes. That's why you have to watch them. But for the most part, I'm not spending more than a matter of minutes a month managing a property, right? In fact, it's probably harder for me at tax time than it ever is through the rest of the year, because I'm not doing a whole lot with that, because it's really just some ways like watching grass grow. The money's just coming in on a monthly basis. But again, you could do that on a lending basis. You could be lending your money, getting paid monthly or quarterly, whatever it might be. Remember, you want to get that money coming in to pay you, not just accumulating a lot of money, but get the money to pay you. So 3 assets I think they could do great for that, to help you do that. 1, I mentioned the rentals are great. 2, you can lend your money out to other investors, right? Like I just mentioned, you can lend your money and become the bank. And then 3 could be syndications. Now, syndications are where you take your money and pool it with other investors to buy a big asset, like an apartment building, like buying self-storage units. It could even be like buying land that could be either raw land, it could be development land, it could be, heck, it could even be oil and gas drilling or whatever it might be. It could even be a car wash for that matter. You could be buying something together with other investors where you get a piece of the ownership. Again, you get a claim to that if there's ever anything that goes wrong. At the same time, you also have the benefit too that you get paid certain returns. Sometimes they have what's called a preferred return, which pays you a certain contractual return. It might be like 6, 7, 8% a year that they're paying you. And they might even pay you on a quarterly basis. So if it's 8%, they might just pay you 2% per quarter. And then when you sell the property, you also get the profits or the benefits on the back end too. You might make more or less, just depends on the terms. That's why it's very important to understand the terms And also, I'll give you this bonus as well, is know who you're investing with. Know their track record, know if they've been doing that kind of investing for at least 10 to 15 years. And then from there, understand, like ask other people who've invested with them for years as well. Like, what's been your experience? How have they worked out? Are they actually any good? Do they hold their word? Do they have integrity? I'll tell you, you can look at somebody's track record all you want, but really it comes down to, is their character good? Are they somebody that's trustworthy or not? Nothing's ever guaranteed. You can always lose money at any time doing these kind of investments. However, the one thing I take comfort in is that if I have the right conditions and the property's done the right way and it matches their own buying guidelines, usually you're gonna be safe. And even if things do go wrong, the great news is you still have an asset that has value, that has some sort of claim to, that you can be able to cash in on. That's the key thing. So those are some easy ways you can create more passive income right now. If you're wondering how much passive income you can actually create for yourself, maybe in like 12 months or so, go to our website, moneyripples.com. There's a passive income calculator that you can fill out and find out just how much money you can make in your situation right now. So check that out.